Life is full of twists and turns, and not all of them are planned, and not all of them are twists and turns we really want to have. Sometimes they can be quite devastating. And today, we're speaking again with Belinda Wightley, a lawyer of 20 years, who recently spoke to us about the importance of wills. So today, Belinda is going to speak to us about other important documents that you might need to have. Over to you, Belinda.
Hello, Karen.
Hi.
Thank you for having me back.
You're very welcome, because these are all things we need to know about. I have a power of attorney, and you're going to talk about those sorts of documents today. So what are your main tips on documents that we need?
Well, along with a will, which takes care of your affairs after you die, on your path of aging fearlessly,
which we're all on.
Exactly. We need to take control of things while we're still alive. So the documents that I'll be talking about today are an enduring power of attorney, an enduring appointment of guardianship, and an advanced healthcare directive.
That is, I know it's going to be awesome news for people and awesome information, because I have a power of attorney, and my sister and I are power of attorney for my mum. So we'd love to hear more.
Well, there are two types of power of attorney. One of them is where you're giving power to somebody else to take to do certain tasks for you, perhaps to sell a home or to pay some bills. It's a very usually for a limited period of time or for a limited number of transactions, and that's the power of attorney. The one that's important when you're aging fearlessly is an enduring power of attorney, and that gives somebody the power to continue taking care of your financial and legal affairs after you've lost the ability to do so yourself. So the first power of attorney is very directional. I tell you, you can go and sell this property. The other one is after you've lost the capacity to direct people, their power continues.
I want to come back and ask you later on about pitfalls with that. And so we weren't talking about that earlier, but there's something that's just twigged in my mind. So,
ask me now.
Oh, I'll ask you now. So if you give power of attorney to someone to look after your affairs, there is an element of risk, isn't there?
Absolutely. And that's why it's important to pick somebody who you trust very much. Or you can have more than one power of attorney. You could have people acting together, or you could have attorneys who act alternately. If one can't be a power of do the job, then the other one will. Now, if you suspect that somebody who has power of attorney is not doing the right thing, then your recourse is to NCAT and have somebody look at what the transactions are, whether they're in the best interest. Because when you accept your appointment as attorney for somebody, you actually sign a document where you state, I will always act in the principal's best interests. I won't do anything that is not the best for them. And so if you're breaching that, then that there's legal recourse to that. But by far the most important would be to make sure you get that person right in the first place.
And that isn't always an easy choice to make, and it can offend some people, can't it? If my mother chose a family member without discussing it with me, it could be that I'm offended that she didn't ask me. So that's something that they have to be aware of, or we've looked at it as a family decision and how it's made, but is that something to be aware of?
A particular example was an elderly lady who still had the capacity to make decisions for herself, but she knew that it was time to start looking at appointing an attorney. And she had a daughter and a son. The daughter was the elder of the two, but she knew that the daughter wanted to sell the family home, sell the assets, and put her into a retirement village so she could then transition into a higher care facility. that's not what she wanted. She wanted to stay at home as long as she possibly could, and that was also the view of her son. So even though the daughter was older, she chose the son to be her attorney and her guardian.
And that probably was very hard on the daughter.
Yes, it was.
So there's other documents that we need.
Well, there are three, really. There's the power of attorney, which we've been speaking about, and also that last story also blended in with an appointment of enduring guardianship. And the power of attorney allows somebody to deal with your legal and financial affairs, and the guardianship gives somebody the power to deal with your lifestyle and your treatment, medical treatment.
Mm-hmm. So these are so important for people, and I know that it is a difficult time for families to have to make these decisions, and along with the wills, it's just, once you get past these things, life becomes a little bit easier, doesn't it? And just allows life to go on, even though there's difficulties and medical issues and aging issues, that it just helps people to get some balance and some normality in their lives.
Well, that's right. You can look at your aging and the twilight years with comfort that you have some control over what's going to happen to yourself. And the third of those documents that we've spoken about is an advanced healthcare directive. Now, that is a document where you set out in great detail what it is that you want really when it's the coming to the end. So your choices about when you would like to be resuscitated, when you would like to just be kept comfortable, and why this document is so important is that you find that when a family member is at that stage, people have a lot of different views about what's going to happen, and the document that I use is about 20 pages long, which I know it's confronting, but really it's every conceivable circumstance. And so when you're gathered around the bed and people start wanting to keep their loved one alive at all costs, and somebody else, and ironically it's usually the person who's been doing the day-to-day care, has seen the suffering, has heard the person say, I just want to go, there's no hope, there's no treatment, I'm in pain. And that person, if they have a document signed by you saying, if I'm in a vegetative state, if I've lost control of my bowel and my bladder, if I'm not able to understand what's going on, I don't want to be here anymore. And that person then can hold the document and say, this is what they wanted. So even though it's different to what you want, this is what they want. It really gives the guardian a lot of force behind the decisions that they're making, and they can make
informed
tough decisions and tough ones, but knowing that this is what was wanted.
Yeah, and that's often the hard part is we're standing outside the situation looking in, and it is and when emotions are involved, it's very, very hard. And when someone is so sick and there's a lot of emotions involved, decisions are not made always in the best interest, and not always made, what's the word I'm looking for, with clarity.
That's right, because we're humans, and our decisions come from where we are at with our grieving for the loss of this loved one. Usually the person who's caring for them, they've started that grieving process months before. Yeah. But the treasured, offspring who's just flown in from overseas, they're at the beginning, and they can't have an end, and that's very hard. But if you've got a legal document that gives somebody the power to make that decision, then we get some clarity. There's not so much to fight over. Yeah.
Belinda, thanks again so much for sharing. And it's just great information for our audience. So once again, thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks again for watching Aging Fearlessly and with Karen and Belinda Wightley. Looking forward to our next chat. Thanks.